Have you ever looked at your partner or even just thought about sex or self-pleasure and felt meh, like there's nothing? Like you feel like you should be into it, you feel like you should want it, but lately it's just not there. It's like your sex drive has turned itself off. She has left the building, don't know where she's gone, and you've been blaming yourself maybe. Maybe you've been going into what's wrong with me. If this is you, I invite you to take a breath and I want you to know nothing's wrong with you. This is actually a very common thing. I've been there plenty of times. I've heard this from women so many times. I've heard this from even friends so many times. It is common. Today we're going to be talking about what really happens when your sex drive goes quiet as an ambitious woman. And I feel like ambitious women are more prone to this disconnection from turn on because we tend to resort to getting stuck in our heads. And I am going to talk about how you can gently bring your sensual and sexual energy back online. Welcome to Worthy of Love, the podcast for ambitious, self-aware women who desire to deeply connect to healthy love. Whether you're single or in a relationship already, this show is here to help you slow down, reconnect with your body, and to help you realize that you are capable and worthy of cultivating and maintaining healthy love, even if you have a history of toxic relationships. I am your host, Celia Antonio. I am a certified relationship coach and a certified female sexuality coach, and I am so grateful that you are here. Now let's get into the show. We had a cat in the background, but he moved, so the camera can't get him. I have a feeling this is going to be a meaty episode. I have so much to say on this topic, and this is going to be a part of the Coming Home to Body series. And this is going to be the last day of the Coming Home to Body series because I'm going to put a lot in here. I can already feel that I have lots to say. So in case you are new to this podcast, hi, my name is Celia. Welcome to Worthy of Love. I am very excited that you are here. If you are someone that has listened before and you have come back to the show, I very, very appreciate that. And I will kindly ask you if you could please write the review, the ultimate review. If you could write the podcast a review on Apple, that would be very helpful. If you happen to be listening on Spotify, you can pop a little rating. I don't think Spotify lets you actually write reviews, but yeah, so welcome to the Coming Home to Body series. In this series, we are exploring what it really means to feel safe, to feel radiant, to feel worthy of love inside of your own skin. There is no requirement to have listened to the other episodes in the series. And yeah, this is also a judgment-free zone. We're going to be talking about turn on, and turn on, like leaving is such a, like, I feel like having experienced this myself and having heard friends and clients experience this, I feel like it's such a spot where we judge ourselves, where we think that we're broken. And I think from a societal level, the first part of why this happens is, so we're going to go into like a little bit of a metaphor with this. So our society in general, when you think of the 4 seasons, our society is very obsessed with the season of summertime. And in summer is all about productivity, about radiance, magnetism, constant growth. And this is where turn on lies. And our society, it gives us so much pressure to be constantly productive. And, underneath that narrative is like that pressure for women to be like, you gotta be ready to go when it's time to go. You gotta be turned on. But because we have such an obsession with summer, when we are not in summer, whether we're talking about turn on or even something else, like when you're in a period of life where, let's say, if you own a business and things are slow, or if you are not able to be as productive, or if you're in a period of grief, because we're so obsessed with summer, we reject the other seasons and we don't allow ourselves to go into fall and into winter. And winter is that time of turn on is gone. She's left the building, and it's actually okay to be in winter. It's actually a part of a cyclical cycle. It's totally normal. It's not normal to be turned on all the time if you have never learned how to even cultivate turn on. Like, if you think about what we have been taught as a society about sexual turn on, especially for women, we are not taught to honor our bodies. We are taught to override our bodies. We are taught to contort our bodies to fit into the beauty standard of the week or beauty standard of the decade. And all of these things are not in line with helping our bodies feel turned on. If we are overriding our body and contorting our body, she is not going to feel safe to feel turned on. And safety is a core foundational pillar of turn on. Women need to feel safe to feel turned on. That's what we need. And also, I've talked about this before in an episode where I talked a little bit about aging. I feel like it can be a tough transition to realize that we need safety to feel turn on, specifically once we get even to like our late 20s, because our only comparison in our sex life up until that point is like going through puberty and being a teenager and someone who's like in their early 20s who has these raging hormones. And when we have these, like, when we're in that period of life with these raging hormones, turn on is very easy to find and it comes very easily. And a turn on shows up when we don't even like, we're not even trying. It's just there. She's like, hey. And you're like, oh, fuck, what do I do with this? Like, I'm trying to study, or like whatever it is that turn on is interrupting when you're that age. It's hard to really come to terms for a lot of women that we really need that slowing down, because that's not what we're taught. And not only is it not what we're taught, it's not what our life experience might have been up until the point when we start to realize that turn on has these cyclical seasons. And I hope this also doesn't discourage you to say that like your turn on's always going to leave, because I will offer some solutions in this podcast episode of how to like really stay connected with your sexual side, with your sensual side. Okay, that little side note made me forget what I was saying. So let's just go on into the rest of the episode. So let's talk a little bit about, before I go into what you can do to find your turn on, I just want to normalize why this is a common thing for ambitious women to lose their turn on. Firstly, when you are ambitious, you live in a constant state of go. And, we're holding careers, we're holding relationships. Sometimes you might even have a 9 to 5 full-time job while also doing this side hustle that like you really want that side hustle to be your full-time job, but you're not at that point yet. So you're putting in a ton of hours. You might be in a period of lots of self-growth or integration. You might have lots of responsibilities. You might be a caretaker. That level of mental load means that our nervous system rarely feels safe enough to soften into pleasure. Again, our nervous system needs to feel safe. Safety is a core foundation to feel turned on as a woman. We need to feel safe to surrender and to open up. So, in these states of that constant state of go, we have a lot of stress hormones just surging through our bloodstream, cortisol, adrenaline, and those hormones literally suppress your sex drive. Your body is in survival mode. Reproduction and pleasure get moved to the back burner. I think this is, side note, I think this is why we are looking at, or one of the many reasons why we are looking at such low birth rates, because we are at a time in the world where it's just stressful to exist, and animals don't procreate in stress. And we put that to the back burner. Ambitious women also lose their turn on because our culture expects women to be endlessly productive and effortlessly sensual. There's such a like, at least, this is my limited experience growing up in a beach town. There's such a pressure for women to like be beautiful, but also like look like she didn't try to be beautiful and for it to look effortless. A good example would be like if you open up YouTube and look at like a no makeup look, and it's like you look like you have no makeup on, but really there's so many products that you're putting on your face. And it's like all of this work to look like you didn't do any work. And that's kind of a societal expectation. And it's an impossible double bind. And what I'm going to talk about in here, which I've talked about in previous episodes as well, is that sacred sexuality is what turns all of this on its head. Sacred sexuality says that your sensuality doesn't belong to productivity and it doesn't belong to someone else's time. It belongs to you. And it's separate from this cultural pressure of what the world is telling you that you should be. So I thought I would share a little story with you here of like what really helped me be able to even find sacred sensuality work in the first place. Because for me, it was having like my turn on wasn't super gone. My turn on wasn't gone. For me, it was like I noticed I had trouble being present in the bedroom. But when your turn on is gone, this same work that I was led to would also help. So I just want to share that one of the solutions could be getting curious about what divine feminine energy is. And before you click away, in case you are someone who has heard other people talk about divine feminine energy on the internet and you think it's like cringy or weird, I understand that. Totally understand that. There's a lot of content on there that like will say they're talking about divine feminine energy, but really they're just talking about like traditional gender norms. And that is not what divine feminine energy is at all. So during the pandemic, I realized that I had anxiety. It was the first time I realized I had anxiety, even though I was 30. I had just turned 30 during the lockdown of the pandemic. And I didn't know I had anxiety because I was so used to living in an anxious state that I thought what I was living in was just normal. And my now husband, then fiance at the time, reflected to me that it sounded like I had anxiety because of my schedule being so full. So this was actually right before the lockdown. My schedule was super full. And then as the lockdown happened, it was such a relief to let go of all the commitments on my schedule. So knowing that I had anxiety, like having that in my mind, I don't remember all of the steps. I know there's like something that happened between like knowing I had anxiety to like diving into divine feminine energy. And I know one of them, it's going to sound weird, but one of them was I got a cat. I got my first cat. And her name is Ruth. She's named after Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she really taught me, like just by witnessing her and how much she rests and how, what a queen she is at setting boundaries and being like, nah, I don't want to do that. I learned a lot from her. And even though like we got her during the lockdown, even though we were locked down, I had started my business at that point, and even though I was my own boss, I was kind of doing the same thing to myself that society would do, where I was putting a ton of stuff on my schedule. And now having this cat who, like, when cats are kittens, they really need a lot of play, and she's asking me to play. So like that was part of like needing to make more space in in my schedule. And then just witnessing how much she relaxes. I'm like, huh, she's very good at self-care. She relaxes. Like, I'm not saying that, humans need to rest as much as cats, because I think they sleep like 20 hours a day. But just watching her, just witnessing that really inspired me to slow down with my body more. And what's really ironic is that for 5 or 6 years up until this point, I was a yoga teacher. And even though I was a yoga teacher, I still had so much to learn about slowing down and connecting with my body. And I was very good at teaching yoga, and my practice was very disciplined. I was just at the time not connecting with my body as deeply as I'm able to now. And I don't think there's any shame in that. I think we always grow, and we're always ready to deepen at the level that we have the capacity for, because sometimes not being able to connect with our body is a defense mechanism, because in the past it was unsafe. Um, that is definitely the fact for me. Being a highly sensitive person, I feel a lot. And so I had to disconnect from my body at a young age in order to be okay. And I'm, just learning that in my 30s, that is what was going on. So back to the story of the pandemic. With this cat, um, I also started seeing at that time I was on Instagram a lot more, and I was seeing posts about divine feminine energy. And it was talked about, like, what the posts I saw, it was talked about like, oh, if you have a business and you're doing it the divine feminine way, you're gonna like write your captions outside in the yard in the grass barefoot. And it was very appealing. I was like, ooh, like that sounds like something I need to do more. And so I dove into it. I was very curious about like, what is divine feminine energy? Like, what exactly is that? And it changed my life. It honestly, it changed my life. It led to me like doing what I do now. It led to me creating my breast massage course, which I'll share about later in this episode, because that is definitely a solution to finding your turn on again. But it changed my life. And here is why I said earlier that like I talk about divine feminine energy differently than what I see online. I don't think connecting with divine feminine doesn't look just one way. It looks different for all of us. However, the common thread of divine feminine energy and what divine feminine energy even is, like the basic summary of it is it's connecting with your body. That's all it is. You're connecting with your body, and you're connecting with your sensations, your emotions, your feelings. You're dropping down out of your brain and your mind and that constant hustle and to-do list, checklist offing. I said that we're checking off the to-do listing. You're dropping out of that and dropping down into your neck, your shoulders, your heart space, down your spine, into your womb. You're like really occupying the tips of your toes and your legs and your limbs. You're really in your body rather than just in your head. That is what I got from my journey of connecting with divine feminine energy. And the way divine feminine energy is usually talked about when people talk about divine feminine energy, they kind of tell you like, oh, because you're a woman, you have to be this way. Because you're a woman, you have to, first of all, because you're a woman, it means you have to be attracting a man, which is not always true. There are women out there who they don't want to be in a relationship with a man. They also tell you, oh, because you're a woman, you don't pay for the tab when you go out to eat. Like they're trying to talk about divine feminine energy, but they're instead just talking about what society taught them about gender roles, which has nothing to do with divine feminine energy or divine masculine energy. I think I need to do a whole separate podcast episode about divine feminine energy. I did not know I was going to go on this tangent, and there's so much more I can say, but I want to go back into what you can do if you have lost your turn on and if you feel like your sex drive has left the building. So, some solutions for you. Number one is to make sensual connection a regular ritual, but to do it from a place where you are not overriding your body. And so what do I mean by this? You could, let's say you are in this space right now where turn on is gone and you're not doing anything in your routine to connect with yourself sensually. You could right now, as you were listening to this podcast, take your fingertips. You could take your right fingertips and gently just brush them along your left arm, like as light as you possibly can while still being able to feel something. And you could close your eyes and just notice how nice that might feel. And maybe if you close your eyes and breathe more deeply and drop in and invite yourself to feel into the safety of this moment and into what makes you feel safe in regards to like the room that you're in or the space that you're in right now, what makes you feel safe, to be able to gently graze your hand or your fingertips on your arm. So I give this example because when I usually say to make sensual connection a daily ritual, one of the first thoughts that you might have when you hear this is like assuming that I'm telling you to masturbate every day, which is not the case because most likely your body is not up for that every day, especially if you're listening to this podcast right now. What you want to do instead is, if your body's into that today, yes, go ahead and do the self-pleasure ritual. But when you go into a self-pleasure ritual, really take that moment to get that response from your body of a yes, and only a yes. A maybe is not good enough. It should only be a yes. And here's why. When we as women learn how to really slow down with our own bodies and really allow our bodies to consent to our own self-touch from us, then we open up the opportunity to have even safer and deeper and more present connections when we are participating in sex that doesn't include just us. So like when we have a partner, when you make this a ritual, when you really have that step in your sensual self-care ritual to be like, wait, is my body consenting? And really slow down and really feel and really drop in. It has this really interesting after effect where you become more outspoken. You speak up more for your body's needs when you are with a partner. And I've experienced this myself. I've seen this happen to my clients as well. There's something about changing that relationship with yourself, because that's that formative, seed that blooms into all of your other relationships in your life. There's something about when you change that, those changes ripple out into all of your other relationships. When you treat yourself with more respect and when you slow down with yourself more, you will require more of that from partners. Okay, so that's the first one, making pleasure a ritual. And if you are looking for some sort of way to have some sort of inspiration to keep pleasure as a ritual, especially if you are looking for practices that aren't about um, like using a dildo or being like super sexual with yourself, where it's more about like sensual self-touch and slowing down and really easing back into things, then you should check out Heart Magic, which is my breast massage course. I will link it below and we'll talk about it um, a bit more towards the end of the episode. Okay, so the second solution is to take orgasm completely off of the table. Don't make orgasm a goal. I think that this is something that trips people up a lot in their sex life is we're so focused on like, oh, I want to get there. I want to get to that point that we're not in the moment. And then the ironic thing about that is then when you're not in the moment, you're not actually in your body. And then you're not actually noticing all the pleasure that your body is able to take in this moment. And then it's even harder to get to orgasm. And so the point of taking orgasm off of the table is to get you to be present in your body and to be present with the pleasure that you are able to feel. And then whatever amount of pleasure that you are able to feel, this is probably like a bonus tip, taking a moment to celebrate whatever you are able to feel in this moment. Because sometimes, depending on where you are in your journey, sometimes we feel very numb. Sometimes our bodies have been shut off for a very long time, and we are in a space where we are healing that relationship and taking the time to celebrate that you notice that, like to notice that self-awareness, taking the time to celebrate what little pleasure you are able to feel is going to help you feel even more the next time because you are normalizing your experience rather than shaming or judging yourself. And also another thing related to that, I guess this is tip number 4, is when you make sensual connection a ritual and you make that time to like, okay, we're going to go into some sensual self-touch today. If you get that message from your body that your body is a no, like even with the simple example of what I said earlier of like grazing your right fingertips on your left arm, you can also, when you do pleasure practices, and I offer this in Heart Magic, I offer this with all of my breast massage practices in there. You don't necessarily have to touch your body in order to show up for a self-touch ritual. And what I mean by this is 2 things. One, you could, like if you are doing, for example, one of my practices, I have video demos in there and also like just audios. So if you are watching the video or if you're just listening to the audio, what you would be doing if your body's a no to touch, one of the things you could do is just listen to the practice. Just listen, and you can imagine yourself doing it. Like you can visualize yourself as if you were doing the practice, even though you're just sitting there. So kind of turning it into a little meditation. You could also, if that doesn't feel like something you have the capacity for, you could also just listen to it and listen to it from a space of, okay, now the next time I go and listen to it, I know what to expect. And so that can make it feel more safe when you go into it the next time because you've listened to the audio already, you know what's coming. It could also look like listening to a practice or watching a practice and noticing, like if this is what's coming up, noticing the resistance in your body that's coming up and taking your time to honor that, to feel that, again, to not shame it, to not judge it, to just really taking that time to welcome those feelings and be with them. And yeah, so those are a couple of things you could do. Another thing you can do is you could hover your hands. So, for example, in the breast massage practices, there's like practice where you're like massaging in a circular motion instead of like actually touching your body. You could just hover your hands over your body and do like an energetic type of practice in that way. You could also, gosh, I didn't realize I had like so many ideas for this. You could also just completely keep your clothes on, and touch over your clothes. Like there's always going to be, I think there's always going to be a way for you to go into a sensual practice in a way that honors your body and doesn't force yourself to go into some crazy erotic ritual that you're not into. Because if you did force yourself into some crazy erotic ritual when your body's not into it, that is not going to give you the therapeutic benefits that sacred sexuality work is supposed to give you. It's actually going to be harmful for you. Think about if an external person treated you that way, you would not like that. So why would you treat yourself that way? And I think that's the beauty of sacred sexuality is it works on your relationship with yourself at the most intimate level that you can get. Okay, what else did I want to say today? I also, again, want to just circle back to how we don't learn to cultivate this sensual and sexual energy within our bodies because we don't learn to regularly connect with this part of ourselves. Usually we learn that this part of ourselves is a shameful, bad, and wrong and dirty thing that we have to disconnect from. And it actually, in my opinion, creates a lot of problems in our society. But we don't learn to really drop in and to connect and to celebrate and to normalize and to nurture this part of ourself, which is why I do the work that I do, which is why I have Heart Magic as an offering. If Heart Magic is something you'd like to go into, it basically is a sensual self-love program. Yeah, so because we don't learn this, I want to remind you again that your sex drive isn't broken. It's just communicating to you. Your body is just communicating to you. Your body is saying, hey, I need you to slow down. I need to connect with you. I need to feel. And when you can start with that presence and that compassion with your body without any agenda and just come to it with unconditional love and curiosity. Firstly, if this is something you've never done before, it will completely change your life. I know it completely changed my life. And it completely changes the relationships you are able to have. Like this podcast is called Worthy of Love. Feeling worthy of love starts with cultivating that within yourself. One more tip I want to leave you with. So I mentioned making sensuality and self-touch a regular ritual, and I talked to you about ways that you can do that while honoring your body. Something else that you can do if I feel like this is like an added practice you can add, and you can also do this instead of self-touch, like if your body really is a no, is taking time to move sensually. Like playing a song that makes you feel sexy and just like dancing around in your living room and doing it in a way where instead of you dancing, it's your body dancing, if that makes sense. Like allowing yourself to move from this intuitive place that might not necessarily follow along with the beat of the song, but that is true to your emotions and your feelings. I hope that this episode was helpful for you. I thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. This episode is brought to you by Heart Magic, which is my sensual self-love journey where you can reconnect with your body and awaken your radiance through the art and practice of breast massage. I originally created this program because I grew up feeling a lot of shame around my breasts, and breast massage practices plus other mindfulness practices that I also offer in Heart Magic were the key for me to radically accept my body. And then when I had the idea to create this offering and I went and talked to other women about it to get some market feedback, I found that every single woman has some sort of uncomfy history about her breasts. And I knew that Heart Magic needed to exist to help you change the relationship with your body so that you can feel radiance and so that you can feel worthy of love.